can we prosper despite uncertainty? That's the topic that we're going to address today on Flourish-Meant. I'm your host, Tina Yeager, and today I have a very esteemed guest with me. Her name is Linda Hansen, and she is the founder and president of Prosperity 101 LLC. She's also author of Prosperity 101 Job Security Through Business Prosperity, the essential guide to understanding how policy affects your paycheck. And she's the creator of Break Room Economics, which is an online course. She's also creator and host of the popular Prosperity 101 podcast, where she regularly interviews a variety of guests regarding public policy, economics, politics, faith, and business. Welcome, Linda. I am so delighted to share your wisdom and breadth of experience on Flourish-Meant today.
Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to join you, and hello to your audience.
Linda, how can people begin that process of learning how to apply powerful steps when they're facing uncertainty to make sure that they and their families can prosper despite it? Do you have a system of specific steps that people can apply to ensure that you flourish in the purpose that God has meant for you?
Well, the online course that I have is not specific necessarily to that. So I can tell you what I would recommend. And I'm also a credentialed coach and things. So if I would be coaching people, I would tell them first, pray. I keep going back to that because if any man lacks wisdom, let him ask of God. So pray and seek that direction, but there's so many resources out there about what are your best talents, abilities, and things. Take some of the assessment courses and figure out what you really want to do. And then as you look at what is changing in the nation and the economy, don't be afraid to reach out. And I think fear holds so many people back. We need to just say we will not fear. And then also being able to go outside of a comfort zone. We all have to try new things. And so a 5-step thing is different for everyone, but those are basics. Start with prayer. Don't be afraid to look at in a new way at what your gifts and abilities, and what is your passion, what's bubbling up inside of you that you've always wanted to do, and maybe now you have an opportunity to do it because your job changed. So it could be a whole new opening and a whole new path to success for so many people. Seek out help of others, whether it's through like maybe an online course or a book about developing your skills and abilities or pivoting, but then also, educate yourself on what is happening politically, what is happening in our government, so you are aware of what's ahead and what may be ahead in the economy, so you can make wise choices, whether it's wise choices for your job or whether it's wise choices for your investment choices, or your children's schools, whatever it is. But we have so many choices we make in life, and so we need to stay educated.
So, for those who are looking to increase their income, to turn to a profession that might be more lucrative or profitable and still align with their gifts, are there some industries that we should be looking at that could be expanding and growing and becoming more affluent opportunities for us as Americans in the coming years?
Well, I think the auto industry is going to boom. And then the steel industry, aluminum industry, these are things that have been coming back as American manufacturing comes back onto US soil. I think that this will create incredible jobs, for people of all different abilities. We can see like Taiwan Semiconductor just committed to creating these semiconductors here in the US, which is unbelievably huge for our country. Apple just committed to a production facility in Arizona. I mean, these are amazing changes and opportunities with really great job opportunities for people. So another thing I would tell people is don't be afraid to move. I mean, not everybody can. It depends on your season in life. Don't be afraid to move. God may be opening up incredible doors for you and your family with a new opportunity. And I've found in my own life too, when one door closes, two or three often open. So don't spend time beating on the closed door, walk through the open ones, right? Just stay tuned to what's happening in terms of these businesses growing. Those are just a few to mention that are going to take off. But you start to have a booming auto industry, right? That comes back to life. Then you have all the industries and businesses that support that are going to grow. When you have increased energy production in the United States, which is going to happen, with the oil pipelines and things like that. When you have increased energy production, that can change the whole economic fabric of an entire town. Watch for the opportunities and try to see what's ahead.
There's a lot of us and them mentality and negativity that's going on in our country right now. And people, whether they are experiencing this fear based reactionary response to what's going on in policy around us, can you talk about how to change that narrative so that we can see hope and we can begin to mend those fences and make peace with our neighbors and become communities that gather together again instead?
That's such a good question because there's been so much division, and this division is intentional. This division that has happened within our nation and often within families and things based on the political things, is intentional. I'm sure it's always been there to a degree, but what has happened, especially in this time, is critical. So I'd say, again, start with prayer. Pray about it, but also seek truth from a variety of sources. We cannot depend on just one news source. We are no longer the point where mainstream media and cable news are the place to get truth, because the talking points that are often paid for to have the narrative, they just divide. They're meant to divide and to deceive. So we need to look at a variety of different sources. And then also, you talk about the division and how it's hard to get people to be united. We need to forgive as Christ forgives us, show grace, love, and forgiveness. We don't have to agree with anyone to show them the love of Jesus in the way we treat them. We don't have to agree with people to show respect and kindness. And that's something that has been a little lost in our society. So it's just like anything, just like courage is contagious, love and kindness are contagious too.
Linda, let's talk just for a minute about businessry and how people who may not be in direct business, who may be trying to support a ministry, are needing to face these uncertain times with that. And that can be very difficult when the economy is uncertain. Can you talk about how to navigate that a little bit?
Oh, especially if you're relying on donors and you are a nonprofit ministry, it can be very hard these times. I've been in those positions. And I would say, again, just really work to try to remain relevant and don't be afraid to pivot. Maybe your donor base is going to shift. This happens, right? Your donor base may shift a little because, maybe some people can't give as much right now. That is one thing, but that will open up somewhere else. So just be really in tune to what's kind of happening, and then don't be afraid to reach out to new people. But that business is ministry, a lot of times people think nonprofits are just all churches. I know that they're not, but there's so many nonprofits doing wonderful work. But nonprofits, that's just a tax term. It is not a term that is actually factual, because these nonprofits actually need to make a profit in order to stay functional. So they need to create their donor base, not only create, but increase their donor base or keep it stable. But, I would encourage them too. What are other ways that you could bring in income? I mean, sometimes it's as simple as a merchandise online store. You have another source of income. You have affiliate marketing with people or products that they buy a product, they use your code, you get money back to the organization. So, they have to look at what all the tax implications are, what's legal for their particular organization, whether, there's local, state, or federal laws that apply, but there's a lot of different ways to bring in that income, even if their donor base is shifting.
Linda, I feel like we've just scratched the surface and you have so much more to offer. Can you talk about what you could offer to extend that conversation with the audience on your site and through your course and through your podcast?
I'd love to. Through my course, the online course is really designed for employers to share with employees. It really walks people through the basic foundations of prosperity, helping them understand that prosperity is not money, it is human flourishing and freedom. But why can we even have that here? And it's basically that reintroduction to, the fifth grade civics that a lot of people didn't have. And then the basic policies of prosperity, simple economic policies that make our our country run, and then how to protect that by becoming an informed, involved, and impactful citizen. And it's very simple, it's nonpartisan, it's very simple, but it really opens up the conversation. One of my clients, I just loved what he said it helps them think like an owner, and how important that is, because we need to move people away from this entitlement society. So, I say, as people are going from leaving the woke, it's woke to what, and I'm like, I would love to help them fill that void. But I also have a book, I have posters that they can share. I On my podcast, I have a weekly podcast, and I interview people, many well-known people that have been involved in policy and politics, that most of the nation know, but also the business owner from the next suburb over, whose metal shop was really affected during the Biden years, or the restaurant owner who had to shut down during COVID, or just a variety of people, and hearing how policy affects them. But then every time I say, well, if you were an employer, explaining how this would affect their employees, what would you say? So if anybody's interested in that, I'd love for them to listen to my podcast. They can find it on my website, prosperity101.com, or you can find my other resources. But it's also on every podcast platform. And soon we'll be coming out with more video podcasts. It's mostly been audio to date, but soon the videos will all be coming out too.
I hope that all of you listening were a little bit more informed and equipped so that you can be more certain, despite the uncertain times, about your prosperity and how God has plans and purpose for your life. And of course, I also hope that you will come back for the next episode of Flourishment.